Your needs and desires matter. And if no one has ever told you this before, I'm here to do it on this episode. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to a new episode of the Mini Mirror Show, where we talk all about emotional wellness. I'm your host, Amira Sookram, and I'm the author of the Guilt Free Goals book and upcoming book, Feelings Based Living, which is coming early 2025. So when I was editing last week's episode, it just came to mind many times for me that sometimes we don't stick up for our needs and desires because we don't think they matter. And I think it's all interconnected, whether we think other people care about our needs and desires versus the mirror of what we think about our own needs and desires. So, my view on relationships is that relationships are mirrors. They're going to mirror something back to you that you need to see about yourself, and you're going to mirror something to someone else about what they need to see. We attract partners and relationships, whether that be in business, in family, in romantic relationships, and friends, who have things to show us about ourselves or that we have to show them about themselves. And I shouldn't say or there, I mean and we have things to show them about themselves. So it's both at the same time. And that's why relationships are a mirror, because we're mirroring things back to each other. So when we go into a relationship and we feel like our needs aren't being met, or that this person is not willing to meet our needs, maybe it's also a reflection that our needs and desires don't matter to ourselves all that much, or maybe we don't stand up for them all that much. And that's how we ended up in this situation. And the other side of that is maybe we aren't putting in the effort to fulfill our own needs and desires because we are very community oriented as humans. We are very relationship oriented. We need other people to survive or to survive and thrive. The issue is that when we focus so much on the other, we're not finding that balance of focusing on the self. And I don't think it's one or the other. I think we need both, which I've talked about on this podcast before. But part of it is understanding that our needs aren't always going to be met by other people, or they're not going to be met by the specific person that we have in mind. And so when we're learning about our needs, we also can take action towards meeting our own needs. And sometimes when we begin to meet our own needs, that's when people come in and see what we're doing for ourselves and can actually play a role in our lives to support us in a way that is beautiful and loving. And this is not to say that you won't be supported if you're not meeting your own needs. It's just that there is something that might be reflected based on your actions within your relationships in your life. And so that could be many different things. But bringing it back to the point, your needs and desires matter. And the only person who can really make it matter in your life, the only person who can give you respect, who can fully love you, who can just have this unconditional support for, is you. There will be people who love you. There will be people who respect you. There will be people who meet your needs and desires. But we want to bring it back to the focus on you, because that's what emotional responsibility is. It's not being responsible for somebody else's actions, it's being responsible for your own actions. Blame is a huge thing that comes into play when we are not having our needs and desires met. We want to blame somebody else for being a part of our life, but not supporting us in the exact expectation that we have for our lives. And so, to shift that expectation, we have to take ownership and realize that instead of blaming somebody else, we can walk away. We can change our lives. We don't have to have this relationship, and we can change that. There's a way to find your needs and desires. There's a way to connect with your needs and desires. And there is a way for your needs and desires to matter to you. And not necessarily are they going to matter to every other single person in your life, because that is not their responsibility. It is yours. So, part of getting to the ability to be able to communicate our needs and desires within relationships, step one, tune into our feelings and let that dictate what we can understand about ourselves. And step two, it's to recognize that my feelings are telling me something about my needs and desires. And step three is to recognize that my needs and desires matter in this relationship. And if it doesn't matter in this relationship, it matters to me. And because it matters to me, I'm going to do what I need to do to build the life of my dreams. And this is not to say that our expectations are always going to match what we attract. Sometimes we have expectations up here and we're attracting down here. And this discrepancy is really confusing to us. And we need to look at what is going on down here and how we can take steps to bring down here slowly up to our expectations, or find a way for expectations to come down here. And we can play with this like up and down of, if my expectations are very high and what is happening in my life is very low, how can I meet in the middle? Or how can I raise the standards of what I attract into my life? And so we're playing with this balance of expectations versus reality. And communication is a big play on requesting for your expectations to be met, or to share your expectations, and then to empathize and understand somebody else's expectations. Because not everyone's expectations are going to be the same as yours. And empathy is not just, these are my expectations, I expect them to be met. Empathy is sitting with somebody else's expectations. It's sitting with how somebody else feels. It's sitting with somebody else's needs and desires. And then ultimately trying to come into the middle, meeting in the middle, a meeting of minds, a meeting of hearts, and to find a win-win solution for both parties. And sometimes the hard part is that we are going to lose people when we raise our standards to meet our needs and desires. And that loss and that grief is a big part of it. And are we willing to do that, to feed our own lives, to feed our own souls? Because sometimes you're not willing to do that. And that is going to tell you something about how much your needs and desires matter to you and what your values are around your needs and desires. Sometimes staying within a relationship is more important to you, like that length of time is more important to you than feeding your soul. And that's okay, because we all have different expectations and different backgrounds and societal expectations of us that are going to impact these needs and desires. And what this is about taking responsibility for yourself and where you're at versus where you want to be, and understanding that you're the only person who can take action towards your dreams. So this is a huge ramble to talk about your needs and desires, and that if you're going to enter into communication about it, that you have to be willing to take action. You have to be willing to stand up for yourself. And I think in a lot of relationships and people I talk to about communicating, or how to communicate with other people, a big part of it is that they don't actually want to stand up for themselves. They would rather stay in their comfort zone, their little bubble that keeps them in this place of, well, if they didn't do this, like, doesn't matter, or if they didn't do this, it's their fault. And I want to bring us out of that, because empathy can bloom so much more when we have open conversations and when we're direct about what we want. So think about it. I want to ask you this week, are you willing to do anything it takes to reach for your needs and desires? And what aren't you willing to do? Understanding these things about ourselves helps us see what our needs and desires are and what matters to us and what we're willing to stand up for to get what we want. So that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. And if you did, please like, share, subscribe, send it to a friend, maybe somebody who really needs to hear this, that they matter and that they can take responsibility over their own destinies. Sending so much love and so much energy for you to reach for what you want in life. See you next Tuesday. Bye.